And how about if I learn what button to push? Maybe some people maybe should not be let loose around technology, and maybe I'm one of them. Well, Erin is my warm-up act. She has been my assistant for a couple of years. She has a very strong background in everything related to emergency preparedness, and she has been just invaluable to me. And I really appreciate the way that she was pummeling you guys with questions, just one after another. So we're really interested in your progress, because the whole point of this is that you make progress, right? I don't know if you've ever taken a class, you sat through something, and by the time it's over, you weren't inspired to do anything, and maybe you were just kind of even confused. Well, now what am I supposed to do? So I'm trying, even though there's a lot of information, to make it simple for you. And so the first day we said, our priorities, well, do I really want everything in my kit, to be cheap, or can I maybe sacrifice some things for something more expensive if it means that much to me? And that was back on day one. And I have a full recap just in a little bit. But anyway, it's me, Lisa Bedford, the Survival Mom. I've been sending out regular emails with reminders and links to recordings, the replays, and so on. If you're not getting those, then you need to send me an email if all you have is my email, or you can notify me on the Facebook page or send me a message on Facebook, and I will take care of that. Okay? Because I really think that the emails are they're invaluable, because that way you'll have the links to the printables and so on. And coming Sunday, if you are registered with me, I'm going to give you like a 23-page workbook that is going to have all the printables in one place, and it's going to have the worksheets we have used, some areas for notes, and we're going to have 2 bonuses in there. One I've already told you about. It's the pet checklist bonus, and so that's going to be in there as well. So all kinds of stuff. And I have to be honest, when I first set this up, I didn't have any idea if anyone would be interested, because you can go on Amazon anytime and buy an emergency kit for $39 or whatever your budget will allow. And as of this morning, we have 2,526 people registered. And that is a pretty big crowd. And here in the Facebook group, Survival Mom Bootcamp, if you're ever searching for the group, I think we're now at almost 1,300. And that's growth in just a couple of weeks. So great. I know you guys have been inviting your friends also. Some people have asked if being in a Facebook group is necessary, and it isn't. It just adds that dimension of being able to network with each other. And ultimately, I think you probably will get more from the challenge and maybe make more progress just because of that interaction and being able to see what other people are doing. When I was reading some of your 5 things in your sustenance packs, there were some ideas I had not read. And one guy is putting one of those flimsy collapsible funnels in his pack. So whenever he has a water source, he needs to refill water bottles. I have those funnels in my kitchen, but had not thought of putting them in an emergency pack. So loads of good ideas in there. And even if you come in and you're just a lurker and you're just going to get as many ideas as you possibly can, that is okay too. So in the free video lesson that we have been doing, today I'm going to outline to you the exact blueprint, and we've been doing this all along, that you need to really transform your emergency kit into one that is reliable, and it's practical, and it's totally suited for you and your family. That to me was really almost like with a previous kit that I had, when it had all of the nice shiny new stuff, from China, and I didn't know if it worked. I didn't know, is this a particularly good flashlight? We bought one of those emergency kits, and maybe I'll post a photo in the group, and things literally fell apart. Including the tactical pin, which is really made out of sturdy metal. And the first time we used it, it broke. So that's not what we want for your own kit. So if you've ever been confused about how to put all of this together, and more importantly, what goes into creating one that is customized, that to me is like a keyword there, customized, then we're working on that today. And if I know some of you have really well-equipped kits, and so maybe you're not totally happy with it. You're wondering if there's something you have forgotten. Sometimes we're terrible about that, aren't we? We're second-guessing ourselves. There's got to be something I have forgotten, and someone else knows what it is out there. So, and maybe your kit just needs to be updated. So in this video, I'm going to show how busy women like you and me can structure this, we can put it together, and that'll make us more confident when it comes to actually dealing with emergencies. Because I have a couple of memories of myself just hitting a panic button in an emergency. And that is not what we want. That's actually the opposite of what we want. Let's do a real quick recap of our lessons from day 1 and day 2, because not everybody watching today has watched those. So it's just a real quick summary. In video 1, we talked about how right now is the time to not procrastinate anymore, get proactive, and you can have the right supplies, the right gear, and really more important, the knowledge of at hand with everything in your kit. So we talked about the 4 survival priorities in day 1 and how to use that framework and decide which priority is most important for me. Is it the cost? Is it the quality? Is it things that are very lightweight or things that are very compact or have less bulk? You have to just kind of go through that thought process with almost each item that you put into your kit. Then in video number 2, we really zeroed in on the very first steps in 2 categories, 2 important categories, sanitation and sustenance. And I've already been reading on the Facebook group your lists of what you have in those 2 categories so far. And that way you can immediately, when something happens, you can immediately address any cleanliness or sanitation issues and sustenance if you have little kids and they're just hungry. Someone in the group mentioned they always have packed those little dum-dum lollipops. They're small, they're cheap, hand went to almost any kid and a lot of adults, and or good for, 20 minutes or so. Now, today we're going to build on what we've already discussed, and I'm going to give you even more of the blueprint to build the best ever emergency kit. So by the end of today's lesson, you're going to have a lot more clarity about how you are going to put your kit together in 2 other very important categories. And I think as we finish up today's lesson, you're going to have even more clarity about how this kind of fits together. When you look at your priorities, we talked about that bullseye to determine what do you really need based on your lifestyle, based on where you live and where you travel. So it all fits together in just one really good piece. I'm going to share components today within the 8 S's. I haven't added a 9th one yet. But shelter and security. So if you ever do find yourself away from home or in a situation where you need to have some kind of protection, maybe protection from the elements, maybe just some privacy for whatever reason, you'll have those things in your kit, as well as addressing security. And the security, I was really interested as I was kind of putting my notes together, because with security, it isn't just a one-shot deal, no pun intended. You have your gun, you have some ammo, and you're ready to go with security. But when you think about it in terms of putting together a kit, there's a lot more to it than that. And you'll be surprised at really everything that you can assemble that is going to give you layers of security. So we've got a lot to cover today. Make sure you have your pen and paper ready. When I sent out your reminder email with the links to today's printables, I didn't have the printable link. So I'll send that out today in the follow-up email. So I hope all of you are getting the follow-up emails and the reminder emails. And if you're not, it is because you haven't signed up and registered for this. You might be getting other emails from me occasionally, but these that are specific to the Bootcamp Challenge, that's why you're not getting them. So all you have to do is let me know, and we'll take care of it. So before we dive into what you're going to put in your kit, we're going to look at a couple of different scenarios regarding shelter. So we always remember our definition. We want to put things in our kits that will help the most immediate and most likely emergencies in the most likely scenarios. So when I put my bullseye together, it was rather clear that I didn't really need to think too much about desert survival. In Phoenix, when I lived there, it was a complete opposite. In fact, in our Facebook watch party last night, a couple of women who live in Arizona said they couldn't even imagine living in a place where there's water everywhere. It's almost like a fantasy land. But for those of us that there's water everywhere, it's like, yeah, you don't necessarily have to pack tons and tons of water because there's water everywhere, except if you live in a desert. So regarding shelter, let's look at some fairly likely scenarios that will help us zero in on what we want to pack. Okay, once we know the scenario and we know that it's actually rather likely that could happen, then okay, this is what I want to put in my kit. So sheltering in your vehicle, I think that is actually rather likely. In the chat area, you can give me a thumbs up if you have ever been stuck or stranded somewhere in your vehicle. Flat tire, dead battery, you get lost, maybe run out of gas. That horrible feeling where you are putting your your pedal to the metal to kind of get some gas in your car, and you realize there is no gas there, and there is that I can push that pedal as hard as I want, but I have run out of gas. That's not a good feeling. What else? Really bad traffic jam, especially if you've ever had to evacuate due to a hurricane in particular. So there are a lot of different scenarios where we might find ourselves stranded in a vehicle. Maybe even sheltering, another scenario, having to shelter in a public area. For example, the wildfires in California last year, Paradise, California, they were horrific. People got out with almost nothing. The wildfires came up so quickly, and they found themselves just having to make do in the parking lot of a Walmart or in some shelter in a school. So in those kinds of scenarios, it will help a great deal to have certain items in your kit to really provide more comfort, maybe some protection, privacy, so you can weather that storm, because I know that those are very, very traumatic. My notes just escaped from me. Maybe even sheltering in a rural area. And that might be if you're out traveling and the car breaks down, or there's some kind of scenario and you have to we're gonna have to stay in the car tonight, or we're gonna have to put up some kind of makeshift tent and do the best we can to get through the night. Possibly sheltering on the property of friends and family. The reason I mentioned that is because with the hurricanes, I remember Katrina and then with Harvey, sometimes people had nowhere to go except for maybe like the backyard of a friend's house if they really didn't have room on the inside. Maybe put the kids outside in a tent, and the adults could at least be comfortable in the house, or vice versa. And then maybe even sheltering in place at home. If there are scenarios where it's not really safe for you to leave the house and you want to just, we're going to hunker down inside because the power's been off for a couple of days, or there's some big storm coming in, we're just going to stay home. There might be things in your kit at that point that you can pull out and you can use. So which of those scenarios would you say you've already experienced, or that you think those are most likely based on your own, based on the side that you got yesterday? And if you didn't, pull up my, I have to look at my phone. But so which one of those do you think is more likely? Here we are. Now I can see your comments. Would you say you've already experienced, and or that you think those are most likely based on? There we go. Shut myself up. And then Aaron says that you might see a delay depending. Okay. So now that you have an idea of what kinds of things you want to prepare for in terms of shelter, let's talk about your vehicle. Because if you have your vehicle and if you have your emergency kit, you are way better equipped than you might think. And I want to talk about the vehicle first, just because it's such a likely scenario. I have been stranded in the car when we were in high school. We had some vehicles that were notoriously they were notorious for their breakdowns. And so just being, just having that in mind, it's like, oh yeah, I know what it's like to be stuck on the side of the road and then try to get some help. That was back in the day when there were no cell phones and you had to just wait until, you lucked out and someone could help you. But in most cases, your vehicle is going to be the safest shelter. I mean, think about it. You already have a roof over your head. There's a degree of safety. You can close the doors and lock them. If there are wild animals around, for sure, your vehicle is the safest place to be. Not all wild animals. We have little possums in our backyard and squirrels that wouldn't hurt a soul. But if there are wild animals that maybe you need to be concerned about, then your car is a safe shelter from those. As long as the battery is alive and working, you have lights. You have a radio where you can get information. You might have some heat and cooling. You might want to put the heater on for a few minutes, and then you don't want to waste gas or in your battery. You have sleeping quarters. I mean, probably all of you have fallen asleep in the car at one time or another. So you have sleeping quarters. It's way better than just laying out on the hard ground. And then you also have whatever supplies that you would normally keep in your car, like that machete that we've been talking about, or sleeping bags, or whatever that's really big and bulky. You think, I'm just going to keep them in the trunk of the car, or I'm going to keep them in under the backseat area. So your vehicle, you are actually in a pretty ideal shelter. And yes, there are some freakish incidents where there could be a mudslide, or there could be, just something that is really extreme. But for the everyday, kind of for the everyday emergency, your car is going to be a good place to be. So let's take that scenario and let's talk about a couple of things you might want to have in your kit. Coming from Phoenix, this is one of my best friends. This is my battery-powered fan. You load the batteries up here, and boy, does this ever work. In fact, my son loves this, and it works very well. You can buy them on Amazon for, Aaron will probably look up the price for me, but maybe $10, $12 a piece. I have, I think, one per person. So this, we would keep at home, but having just one of these in your vehicle or in your emergency kit would be a good thing. I will tell you, it is very handy, it's powerful, but it's also heavy. I mean, it has batteries in here and it does weight it down. But you might be able to find something smaller that would do the trick for you, but not have so much bulk and weight, because that definitely is bulky and heavy. Besides a fan, then here's something. Aaron and I were tossing around ideas. And in my shower, we have just kind of unusual shower situation. It's a round shower and it's unusual. But I have to buy these really cheap plastic shower curtains. And my husband usually gets them at someplace like Home Depot. We just want the white plain ones. It's $3 a piece. You know what? I was thinking about those shower curtains. If you needed something where you could just unfold it and immediately have a clean surface area for $3, that's hard to beat. You can put it up as a sunshade. You could, since it's going to have little rings, you might be able to weave a rope or something through the rings and hang it from something. The binder clips, who was it? It was Deb, sweet lady named Deb, brand new. Oh, Deb Becker. Deb Becker is the one who mentioned binder clips. You could clip those up maybe to the car doors to provide a little bit of, you can open the doors for some ventilation, and you'd also have some privacy. So something as, as inexpensive as a shower curtain. In that same category though, is one of these babies. And this is the, my mom had these. This is just a plastic, inexpensive tablecloth. It has this, fuzzy stuff on the back. Again, same purpose. You immediately have something for a shade, something for shelter, privacy, a clean surface. If you are going someplace and the picnic tables or something look really bad, now you have a clean surface area. If you need a clean surface area to change a baby, or for maybe the kids to lay down and take a nap, you at least have this. They're not just on the dirt or the sidewalk or the parking lot or whatever. And then the third thing that kind of serves all of those, but even better because it's heavier and it's more durable, is a tarp. So now we are back in the land of our survival priorities. So we're thinking it might be handy to have something like this, some kind of sheeting, right? We'll call it just sheeting. And the very cheapest is going to be your $3 shower curtain. It's also going to be very compact. It is not going to be especially high quality. It'll probably get you through one incident, okay? And by incident, I mean one kind of emergency scenario. And then you just get another one for $3. It is lightweight. It's going to be more lightweight and a lot less bulky than this tablecloth, but the tablecloth is a lot more durable. And then what's even more durable than the tablecloth? It's one of those huge, big old tarps that you buy at a sporting goods store or Walmart, and they cost more money. But what it is, you have the quality there. It's more money. It weighs a lot and it's a whole lot bulkier. So you'll just have to kind of depend. If it's something you're going to put actually in your kit, then maybe go for the shower curtain. You can always cut the shower curtain into smaller pieces for different uses. So it might even help you out with privacy. Putting things up in the windows of your vehicle if you actually have to spend the night there. We always use, when my kids were little, you know what I stocked up on? Gymboree blankets. I loved the Gymboree blankets. They were the perfect weight just for a nice lightweight blanket in the Phoenix area. And then they were a nice size for putting up in our windows, and I could lay the kids on them if I needed to change a diaper. But that kind of size and weight was ideal. So start thinking. It'll be really nice, and I believe it's necessary to have something that's going to just give you a clean surface for lots of different emergency scenarios. Now, also on that list, we mentioned the Lucy light, because as part of your shelter, you do want to think of light sources. There are two kinds of light sources. This provides an ambient light, all right? You can blow this up, you can punch the button, make sure it's charged, and you're going to have just a nice overall light. It's going to light your little inside of your vehicle or your little makeshift, shanty that you have constructed with your amazing creativity, right? And your emergency kit. However, it isn't directional lighting. So in your kit, think of two things. You want something to provide ambient lighting. It's just going to light up an area. And then also, what are you going to use for directional lighting? So something maybe you need just light focused on some small area, or a bit larger area if you are walking down a path or something at night. So two kinds of lighting. Your kit should have both. Some other supplies that might help with your tarp / shower curtain / plastic sheeting / tablecloth. Duct tape. You might want to put in some duct tape, a small amount. I don't know that you need a big, huge size of duct tape. If you have a roll of duct tape that is partially there, you might want to okay, we're just going to go with that. It's half used up or a third or whatever. We mentioned some kind of rope, paracord. I have paracord and I meant to get it. The binder clips mentioned by Deb Becker. And there could be, you can just you be thinking about it. Okay, if I was going to hang up a tarp, how would I go about doing that? Other things on the list, I did mention a light source. And my husband said, well, Lisa, what about candles? In a vehicle with the doors closed and it's cold outside, a candle that is burned for just a few minutes actually can warm up, not cozy warm, but it can warm up the interior of a small area in maybe, 5 or 10 minutes. And then you can blow that out to conserve, the wax, and then do it again. If I was going to put one of those in my emergency kit, I would get one of those small glass jars with a tightly fitting lid. I forget the brand name. I used to buy these like crazy when I lived near a mall that had this store. Does anyone remember that store? You walk in and it's just the most amazing smell of candles. But anyway, that's what if I was going to put it in my emergency kit, that I would do. It would provide a little bit of lighting, a small amount of heat, and because of the glass jar, it would be more protective of the flame. You just want to make sure if you have an open flame in your vehicle, you don't want to go to sleep with that thing burning. So that does carry some risk. You'll just have to decide if that's what you want to do. And one thing I have around my house, I have those little tiny battery powered tea lights. Because I was thinking, if my children were younger and remembering when they were 2 and 3 and 4 years old, an emergency is already scary enough. Wouldn't you agree? Even to adults that have training and equipment and so on. Imagine what it would be like for a little kid. All of a sudden the car doesn't work, or we're lost, mommy. A little tiny battery tea light. They're really cute, not very much money, and just tuck one of those in, and that would make a really nice night light for a kid, or maybe just to have a tiny bit of light, in a small enclosed dark space where you would just have that if someone needed something during the night. On the list, if you print it out, I will put those links in the follow-up email, I promise. Things like an inflatable pillow, although you can roll up a blanket or roll up a jacket or something. And then, two things. This is what is called a bivy sack. Okay, a bivy sack. There probably are other versions, but I'll show you the one that is sold by my friends at Survival Frog. I like their company. They have a 6-month guarantee on everything. So this, if you look at this really closely, I'm going to hold it up to the camera there. This is this pretty much the same material. Might be a little bit different. I think it's a little different than an emergency blanket. Emergency blanket, they're made out of Mylar. So maybe a different weight of Mylar, but nevertheless, this one is orange on the outside and it is silver on the inside. So if you're in a situation where you want to be rescued and found, you would want to open this up and use the orange side of this. If you're in a scenario where you want to stay warm, I mean, this is the orange with the orange on the outside, it's still going to protect you from, the rain and wind and so on. You're not going to be thinking that you're in a luxury hotel under down blankets and anything like that. But you know what? We're talking about emergencies, right? So then if you can actually, turn this inside out and use the silver on the outside, and that is going to act as just kind of a warmth barrier for you. So this one comes in a pouch. And if I was going to choose between a bivy sack and an emergency blanket, I would choose this because it's pretty much the same material, if not very close to it, but it's actually like a little sleeping bag size. And so it's more versatile than a flat blanket would be. And then I debated about this one, but I'm going to show you. Our family has used these like crazy over the years. I think it's too big for an emergency kit, but it depends on what your kit is, right? Some of you, I know you have like some plastic bins. This we bought at Walmart several years ago, I think when we were up and camping in Utah and decided we weren't warm enough at night in our sleeping bags. This is just a fleece sleeping bag. They are not very much money. You can buy them on Amazon. This is about as tight as you're ever going to get it rolled up. You can maybe get it a little more compact if you wanted to try a vacuum sealer, maybe, but nevertheless, they are unbelievably versatile. We have unzipped them and they have just made a nice ground covering, a blanket over several people, or a sleeping bag. Really versatile. I put it on the list. I'm pretty sure it's there. I do think it's bulky for most of the emergency kits that we see, but for something to provide warmth in temperatures that are not very extreme as far as cold is concerned, it's a good choice. Let's move on to security. Okay. Let me see. I'm going to scroll down. My sweet friend Erin is keeping track of your questions. Someone says the bivvies were on sale yesterday. Lynn, survival forecast sales pretty frequently, so we can keep track of that. There's a round light reflection on your glasses. I know, Robert. The light that kind of, I live in a very shady area. Not shady like sketchy. Yeah. We live on the wrong side of the tracks. No, we have so many trees out in our front and backyard. It is really difficult for me to get decent lighting for something like this. And so I have a little light there. It is a ring. And so maybe if I put my glasses down or something, you won't be able to see it quite so much. Security. Let's address security. So there you are. Some kind of incident has happened. And, oh, can we backtrack just for a little bit? This is something else I pulled out. This is a candle called New Wick. And it can actually, you can use this for light, heating, and you can even use it for cooking. It comes with these little prongs, these little blue prongs that hold up the flame. It has directions for using it. But I have had this for a number of years, and I've used the one previous to this. Really versatile. I like that it comes in a can. So if you want to have something that would be more than just like a candle or a flashlight, something like, well, maybe we could even put something, a cup of water on there if you want to melt snow or something, then the New Wick candle is something you can look for. I'm assuming it's on Amazon, but I did not buy that. I bought that through another website online. So let's talk about security. What do you very first think of when you hear the word security? Just type it in. I'm going to be looking. Let's see. Boy, amazing comments here. When you think of the word security, what comes to mind? I would say in my household with my husband, the first thing that would come to mind would be a gun. All right. And I think that in emergency kits, in kind of your everyday preparedness, we are just a family that have all been trained on how to use different kinds of firearms. So that would be a part of our kit in one way or another, whether we probably wouldn't keep it in the kit, but it would nevertheless be a part of that whole component. But with your emergency pack, it really does need to address security in terms of layers. I mean, if you're in a scenario where you go from just sitting around minding your own business and everything is peaceful to having to use a gun, that is a really extreme event. And there may have been layers that you could have put in place that might have avoided a confrontation like that. Not always, there's some real violent nuts out there, but let's see what other layers that you could put into your kit. And they are all actually pretty simple. The first one I'm going to mention is something that isn't going to fit in your kit. It is something called situational awareness. Please, if you've ever heard of situational awareness, would you give me a little thumbs up in the on Facebook? And I'm looking at this and I'm getting a delay. So I'm assuming all those little thumbs up are going crazy. Situational awareness is just always being on the alert. Not like you're high on some kind of a drug where, you're just aware of every single thing that's, affecting all your 5 senses, and maybe you might have developed 7 or 8 or 9 senses. No, we're just talking about just kind of being aware of things. And the opposite of situational awareness is walking down the street or driving and looking at your cell phone. Okay, you have no situational awareness right now. I mean, someone could come and jerk your car door open and you can have a carjacking in just moments because no situational awareness. Well, let me tell you, I listened to an interview. I'm going to put Erin, remind me to put a link to this podcast interview in my follow-up email. It was on the podcast Art of Manliness, which I just love. That is why I have become so manly over the years from listening to it. And the host, Brett, interviewed a man who has a really very impressive background just in the realm of security. And he brought something up that was really interesting, because when you think of self-defense, you naturally think of maybe I can use a firearm if there's some major event, or I can start taking different kinds of martial arts. And he pointed out, he said, the number of people who are willing to commit the time and the money and the sweat, I'm sure, the exertion, to really become so good at whatever martial art, the martial art of your choice, where they realistically could defend themselves in a confrontation. We see them in movies all the time, but he said in real life, pretty much no one ever does that. And then he mentioned firearms. And really police officers, law enforcement officers, they will shoot. If they're in a shooting situation, they may fire dozens of rounds, just one officer, dozens of rounds, and they may never even hit the target. Nothing against them. That is just reality. When the adrenaline kicks in and there's a high level of panic and chaos, no one knows what's going on, and you're just firing a gun. So it really takes a lot of training to to get the muscle memory down, to kind of get your brain trained to react in an appropriate manner with a firearm in a crisis. So again, not against the firearms, but situational awareness, just being aware of who is around you and what's happening. And that group of people over there, they're talking. Now they're breaking up and maybe one of them's coming toward me. Just always watching people. Where are their hands? Are they in their pockets? Do they have something in their pocket? Maybe they're hiding from me. What direction are people coming from? All of these kinds of things. I'm going to provide in the follow-up email, again, Erin, some links to a couple of books that will teach you more. And I think I have a couple of articles on my blog that do this. But before loading your emergency kit up with weaponry and, boxes of ammo, really, it's amazing just what situational awareness can do for you. Quick story. I have a very close relative who has been in law enforcement his entire life, as long as I've ever known him. And one time I was asking, my husband and I were thinking about security systems for our home. And I asked him, what kind of security system do you have? And he said, really, Lisa, what you have to do is practice situational awareness. He says, I've taught that to my wife and my kids. That is the most necessary step. And that really just, I never forgot that. So as you are thinking about handling emergencies, and we're going to get that emergency kit packed, we are, but do some research and do some learning about situational awareness and then teach it to your kids. So being loaded up with guns and ammo is not the end of the world, but let's talk about something else besides situational awareness. That's one layer. The next layer is called, and these may not all be in this order, but visual deterrence. Now this you can pack in your kit, visual deterrence. If you've ever been in a neighborhood and you've walked down the street or driven down the street, you'll notice, wow, that house is really taken care of nicely. Wow. They have a little fence, they have some flower beds, and you can tell they really care about their home, they're conscientious, and they're probably paying attention, to their home and things around them in the neighborhood. Maybe the house down the street, 2 or 3 houses down, that yard has not been swept for months. The windows are dirty. It looks like there's maybe a shingle that's falling off. And yes, I am describing a home in my neighborhood. And they're just things are overgrown. They have a car over here. It looks like it hasn't run. That house looks like no one cares. It looks like no one is paying attention. And that is the difference between a home having visual deterrence and not. So if you were someone and you were looking to break into a house or to commit some kind of crime, you probably would go for the home that looks like everything there is just very slack. They probably don't pay attention to who comes in and out. They don't even know who's on their property. Not this one. That guy must be out trimming his grass with a little pair of scissors, twice a day, and his wife is out there working on her flower bed. Visual deterrence. So what can you put in your pack? What could you put in your pack that would create visual deterrence? I'm looking. The OODA loop, good. Here they come, some comments. There's definitely a lag. One thing you can do, we mentioned lighting already. Just if you have to set up, let's say in a shelter that's somewhere on the side of the road or in a parking lot, if there's some big massive evacuation, just having, remember that tarp we talked about? What if you were able, depending on where you are, to put up that tarp right away? People know, oh, that's their space. It's kind of like being at a beach. If you're at a beach with a bunch of people, are you going to go and just step on someone's towel that they have down? No. If you go to like a hotel and there are loungers around the pool and one of them has a towel on it, you assume that it's taken. Visual deterrence, right? What could you do to create that and put things in your kit? All right. So maybe if you just put down your tarp on the ground, this is our space. And even if it is that $3 shower curtain, it's way better than nothing. An organized campsite. Maybe you want to put some things in your kit that might just help with, just some organization where someone here is there. We're vigilant and we're paying attention. Lighting, I mentioned, is an excellent something that will create that visual deterrent. And then moving on, having something in your kit to attract attention if you really need to. So if there is a scary scenario developing, a couple of guys getting a fight over here, how are you going to maybe attract attention if there are people who can come to your rescue? So some people put a whistle. Make sure you have a nice whistle that is good even in freezing conditions. I never knew that the little ball inside a whistle can freeze, but apparently it can. Someone mentioned a panic button alarm. I think that was Aaron's idea. Panic button alarm, something to attract attention quickly if you need it. And those are small items. They can go in your kit. And then what if you don't want to attract attention? Maybe when you're thinking about putting a change of clothes into your kit, maybe your t-shirt is going to be gray. Maybe it's not going to have any big logo on it. Maybe it's just going to be tan, and maybe it's something that you don't even wear because it's not very pretty. Maybe that's the thing, just to kind of put it in. So as people are, if there's a mad rush going on because of an evacuation or some kind of natural disaster, you're just going to kind of blend in with everybody. They won't remember, the woman with the tan shirt and the khaki colored pants, and I think she had brown hair. Maybe, but they will maybe pick out, someone who's brightly colored, maybe more expensively dressed. Jewelry and so on. So that is just something to think about, because that's something else you could pack into your kit when you don't want to attract attention. Two more layers. Communication. Communication is definitely a layer. When you look at my checklist, you're going to see it's kind of heavy on things like having a charged battery pack. That is like they come in different sizes. Mine, the one I usually use is about this big. I meant to show it to you. But you can charge it, and then it just acts as a battery. You charge it, usually I plug it into the wall, and then I just have that and carry it around with me. Then I can always plug in my cell phone. Communication is huge. It's a huge layer when it comes to security. You want to know what's going on. In that case, maybe a radio, a cell phone where you can get news and keep up to date. Are there road closures? You need to know that kind of thing. And then you also need to let people know where you are and communicate back and forth. And then I put something on that list that some people have questioned me on, but that is money. Money. Money is the ability to acquire things that you really need. And in a situation with a power outage, or maybe it's some kind of a big panicking event, if you have cash on hand, then you can buy certain things with cash. With Harvey, there was a Lowe's not far from here. It was right over the railroad tracks. And if you had cash, you could go in and you could buy a generator, or you could buy what you needed. And they were only letting in like 2 or 3 people at a time. And they would walk around and follow you while you picked out what you wanted. If you had cash, you were golden. But when their register machines weren't working, you're out of luck. So I fully believe in carrying cash. And I just suggest how much to fill up your tank completely, whatever vehicle you're going to be driving, and maybe cash to cover a night or two at a hotel or someplace, a campsite, maybe enough food, to buy some food for maybe 2 or 3 days. And then who knows what else, all kinds of things. We have need all kinds of things, but that is it. And then finally, I do have self-defense weapons on my list, a handgun, ammo, loaded magazines, a knife. So I do have those there, but remember that it's, that emergency kit is going to have the most essential items that are going to be, the biggest amount of help in a time of need. And so we're not just going to immediately just say handgun. I hope that none of us ever in a situation where that's the only solution. And shelter and security, they go hand in hand. So as you pack things, you're going to be making a pack of things for shelter, and maybe a separate pack of things for your security, your layers of security. What I do is I put those either in big Ziploc bags and I label them. Although Kathy O'Gwen in the group, she showed us how she has brown paper bags lined up and labeled because she is starting to make these kind of kits for members of her family. You can do that, or you could label each bag with one of our 8 S's. So you can have your sanitation, brown grocery bag, and your sustenance. Today it's shelter and it's security. Tomorrow it's sanity. You're going to be able to fit your sanity into a gallon-sized Ziploc bag. I love looking at photos. I know everyone else does too. So do post your photos. We want to see what is in your kit. I'm going to keep posting those 5 things. Later today, it'll be 5 things in your shelter kit or your shelter pack, and then 5 things in your security pack. If you don't want to show us your firearms, then don't. But we really, I want us to all move ahead, and I want us to move ahead together. So I'll do a quick recap of today. We talked about shelter, ideas for creating a safe environment if you find yourself stranded from home and you need to have some degree of shelter at some kind of a level. Then we mentioned security. It's not just guns and ammo. It really is being aware of your situation, situational awareness, and the surroundings and the people that you are encountering. Thinking about layers of security, there are things that you could do to create multiple layers of security and actually have those with you in your kits. And when you see how all these things can fit together, it's easy to actually accomplish this emergency kit, isn't it? So the most importantly, it feels really good knowing that what you should focus on right now. So we're just going through like a step-by-step blueprint, a plan where on day 5, all the pieces will come together, regardless of where you are in your journey. So are you starting to see how just having the clarity and a game plan or blueprint is going to help you create that emergency kit? Because at the beginning, we said it's going to hold the most essential items that you need for the most, what was it? I forget my own definition. But that's what we're creating, and without any of the confusion and knowing that you need to have that kit, but I don't know what's supposed to go in it, so never mind. All right, or maybe you have one and you just need to refresh it. So now you've got all these wheels turning. I want to hear from you. I know you're going to be picking up a lot of ideas, not just from the comments, my goodness, but hopefully from the lesson today, and then also everything that is happening in the Facebook group. So let us know in the comments what your next step is going to be. With shelter and security. And then also, if you found this video helpful, share it with people. There is a little button there, I think, where you can click share. You're welcome to do that. And I know that some of you have been adding friends, which is a good thing. I've appreciated that. I've just been a little cautious because I don't want to add friends to the group against their will. So maybe you can shoot me an email or shoot me a message and say, hey, Lisa, I'm adding, these 5 people, they already know about it. Let them in. I don't want anyone to say, what did I just step into here? Day 4 is tomorrow, 11 a.m. The video coming tomorrow, I'm going to add 2 new categories to your kit plans, and that is going to be sanity and strength. So no kit is going to be complete without little things that are going to help you stay calm and grounded. Just one of those things where you just take a deep breath, and then what? We're going to address that tomorrow. And then also no kit is complete without having the right supplies for keeping everyone strong and healthy. That's why I had to invent that 9th category. So if you're brand new and just starting out, this is going to give you some more specific pieces to build your first kit and do it the right way. And if you already have a kit, it's just going to build on what you've already created and help you maybe refine it a little. A couple of other little notes I have here. So I want you to know how much I admire you. You've been taking time out of your day, and some of you watching the evening, the replays on the Facebook Lives. And you've been diligently looking around the house, maybe going out to the garage or the car. You're going through cupboards. I know I have a little pair of scissors somewhere. I know I have a flashlight somewhere. You're really doing this because you are of your commitment to your family and your commitment to your well-being. In fact, you don't want to be the woman who is standing on the side of the road crying for someone to help her because she is just so lost in just a mass confusion that she doesn't know what to do next. So we really want to move you along that path where you are the person, you are the woman who has some confidence. And an emergency kit is just a part of that. Think about day 1 video. You learned how to think critically about your kit using our priorities framework. And you learned how to make decisions. Several of you were telling Erin, I realized I don't need 2 or 3 multi-tools. I don't need, 2 or 3 of this or that in my kit. Backups are good, but do you really need all of them in your kit? You'll have to decide. And all of this shows me that you are determined and you want to be the strong woman for your family and the strong man. We have men here too. You made big strides in video too, because we talked about those two very fundamental categories, sanitation and sustenance. And in just a couple of days, you will have learned so much about building the best every emergency kit and doing it in the smartest way possible. That has been my goal all along. In the next video lesson, I'm going to cover the next steps in the journey. And coming up on day 5, I'm really excited about a big announcement I have for you, as well as prizes and celebrating. All right. Let me see if my friend is around. Erin, let me see. Oh, I have questions. And we did start late. I tried to do something fancy with my technology and it didn't work. So Erin mentions that she did post the Lucy light. Do batteries stay okay in the car? A lot of things are going to be temperature, there different things are affected by temperatures, and batteries can be one of them. In your kit, if you think about your kit, if you can insulate things like a battery, that can help prolong the battery life. But if you're going to be committing to refreshing your kit every 6 months, some of you are doing it like every season, then I wouldn't worry about the batteries. You can just take them out, use them around the house for something, and then put in fresh batteries. Oh, thank you. Erin remembered Yankee candles. That is the jar, the little tiny jar that I was thinking about. She mentions battery operated fans start out at about $10. Someone says, what if you don't have a cell phone? What could I do when it comes to communication? If you want to get the information out, then you have to have some way to do that. Now, many women, men too, but many women have chosen to become ham radio operators. And a ham radio is, you can get one about the size of my cell phone, maybe a tiny bit bigger. And they are, you can purchase them on Amazon. I would recommend doing that, because you can get information in and you can get information out. You can contact people, but it does take some training to do that. But that is what I would recommend if you don't have a cell phone. Also, regarding that cell phone, you can actually buy what they call it in the movies. Someone goes in and they're going to buy like these little cheapy phones, a burn phone, right? Burner phone. You can buy yourself a burner phone, just like they do, you know, the people on TV who are on the run, right? And that is just something that you just can connect really, really quickly if you ever had to. I know some people buy phones for their kids, and it's kind of that scenario. If you ever have to do it, here you can activate it and you can use it. So maybe that would work. The Flying Circle link. Yes, I contacted the Flying Circle lady yesterday, and we're going to see what she can furnish the 2 prizes that I'm hoping for. Art of Manliness link is about to get posted. The brand name of the bag I do like the Flying Circle. There are so many companies that make them, but just because I have worked with them before for about 5 years off and on, I just like their bags. And they have a lot now. They have a lot now, more than they used to. All right. Lots of fantastic comment. Trina says you can get a track phone for $50 at Walmart. You know, that might not be a bad idea to put in your kit. And I think we're done. Oh my gosh, we started late, but we actually didn't even go a full hour. All right, I will be reading through your comments. If there's a question or something that I feel like I have, you know, something of value to say, I will stop and say it. But otherwise, I'm going to be in the group and back tonight, 8:30 p.m. Central, for a watch party, and those are a lot of fun. So I hope you can join me. All right, I will watch for your follow-up email probably around 3 o'clock today, and that's all. Take care, everybody.